Hi, my name is Paul Grogan. Welcome to my gaming rules tutorial video for Venice, designed by David Turczi and Andrei Novac and published by Braincrack Games, who sponsored this video. In Venice, you and up to 4 other players take on the role of wealthy merchants riding gondolas through the city's canals. You will train your assistants to activate the abilities of the various buildings, collect resources which you will use to complete contracts, and increase your political power. As you broker contracts and flirt with crime, you must avoid arousing the suspicion of the Venetian Inquisition, or find yourself arrested at the end of the game, and your businesses shut down for good. In this video, I'll be covering the rules for the 2 to 5 player game. For the solo game, after you've watched this video, check out the back of the rulebook. Place the main game board in the middle of the play area. The board is double-sided, day on one side and night on the other, but there are no other differences. Shuffle the building tiles and place them at random on the appropriate spaces like this. Place the resource cubes in a supply nearby. And also place the coins nearby too. Place the end game piece on the major council track on the space according to the number of players. Here we are setting up for a 3-player game, so it goes on space 12. Each player takes a player board. Ensure that it is the correct side up for the number of players. This side in a 4 to 5 player game, and this side for a 1 to 3 player game. Then each player chooses a colour and takes all of the components in that colour. 2 boats, 1 gondolier, 10 assistants, 2 bridges and 4 trackers. Each player also takes 6 coins. Each player places one of their trackers on the starting space of the scoring track and another on the starting space of the council track. Place your other 2 markers on your player board, one on space 1 of the scroll track and the other on the leftmost space of the intrigue track. Shuffle the mission cards and count out a number of them according to the number of players in the game. 9 cards in a 2-player game, 13 cards in a 3-player game, 17 cards in a 4-player game, and 20 cards in a 5-player game. This is the mission deck. Return any extra mission cards to the box without looking at them. Deal 3 mission cards to each player. Choose 2 of your mission cards to keep and return the other to the bottom of the deck. To help you decide which mission cards to keep, look at the positions of the buildings on the board, what resources they offer, and plan a route. For your first game though, when you are just learning, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Shuffle the influence cards and place them face down as a deck nearby. Randomly choose the first player and give them the first player token. This stays with that player for the whole game. Give each subsequent player 2 extra coins per player before them in order. So the second player gets 2 additional coins, third player gets 4 additional coins, and so on. Give the first player the first movement token. Unlike the first player token, this will move between players during the game. Optionally, if this is your first game, take a favour card and place it this side up in front of you. I'll explain this later on. After setting up the game, but before the game properly begins, players place their boat onto the board. Each player in turn order places their first boat, and then each player in reverse turn order places their second boat. Therefore, the first player is the first and last to place their boats. If you place your boat next to a communal building, you activate this building immediately, and I'll explain activating buildings more in a later chapter. If you place it next to a non-communal building, place one of your assistants on the first quadrant of the building, the one with the building name. Then you activate this building, which in the case of the church means adding a silver cube to your boat. It is allowed to place your boat on the same space as another player's boat, but not your own boat. If you do this, 2 things happen. First, the other player scores 1 victory point. Second, the other player's assistant is moved to the next quadrant. This doesn't give them any immediate benefit, but it will be useful for them on their turn. And then you place an assistant on quadrant 1 as normal. When there are 2 or more boats on the same space, it's recommended to turn them sideways so that it is clear which order they arrived in. And the same process is followed if a 3rd, 4th or even 5th boat is added to the same space. Each player who is already there earns 1 point for each boat that arrived after it. So in this case, purple scores 2 points and orange scores 1 point. And a similar thing applies to the assistants, because each quadrant, apart from the last quadrant of a building, can only have 1 assistant in it. So if a new one is placed, it pushes all existing ones 1 space forward. The final quadrant can hold any number of assistants, and once an assistant is there, it stays there for the rest of the game. You're now ready to play the game, but in explaining these prologue rounds, I've already covered 2 important concepts about boats and assistants. Don't worry, I will cover these again later on. The game is played in a series of rounds. In each round, the first player takes a turn, followed by all other players in clockwise order. Nothing actually happens at the end of a round, you just keep taking turns one after another. The end of the game is triggered when the last mission card in the deck is drawn, or when a tracker on the major council reaches the end game marker. You then finish the current round and play 2 additional rounds before adding up the points to see who's won. On your turn, perform 5 steps in order. I'll first give you a summary of each one, and then I'll go into more detail. First, you may play an influence card from your hand and resolve its effect. Next, you must choose which of your boats you will move this turn by placing your gondolier in it. Then, you must move that boat 1 or more spaces along the canals. Step 4 is optional. If you can complete a mission card from your hand, do so now. And finally, you advance your assistant and/or activate the building where your boat is. At the end of your turn, give the first movement token to the next player. It is then that player's turn. So, step 1 is playing an influence card. You don't start the game with any of these, but you will acquire them during the game. You may play 1 influence card at the start of your turn if you want to. Simply play the card, follow the text on it, and then place the card on the influence discard pile. In step 2, choose which of your boats you want to move. On your first turn of the game, simply choose which boat you want to move and place your gondolier in it. On subsequent turns, however, you must either move your gondolier to your other boat or pay 3 coins to keep them on the same boat. And whilst 3 coins sounds like a lot, this is one of those tough decisions in the game, because sometimes it's absolutely the right thing to do. In step 3, you must move your boat that has the gondolier in it. Each turn your first movement is free. Choose any direction to move in, place the first movement token over the cost icon, and then move your ship. If you want to move your boat further, you must pay the coin costs indicated on your route, and you place the coin spent over the icon. You can move your boat as many spaces as you like as long as you have the money to pay for it. And placing the coins over the icons helps you remember which path you took, because you cannot go over the same path twice, and you also cannot end up where you started. Whenever you move past a building where you have an assistant, you may activate that building. An exception to this is if your other boat is already at the building you passed by. In this case, you do not get to activate the building. And just as a reminder, I will explain activating buildings in more detail later on. Also, if you pass through a space where another boat is docked, even your own, you must resolve a meeting before the activation. Gondola meetings will be covered later in the video. After you have finished moving your boat, step 4 is completing a mission. To do this, reveal a mission card from your hand that has the name of the building where your boat is, and spend the cubes depicted on the card from the boat. Some missions also require payment in scrolls. To spend scrolls, simply move your tracker back on your scrolls track. You then gain the victory points and coins as shown on the card. After completing a mission, you then tuck it under one of the slots on your player board. Its ongoing effect can now be used. When you complete your 4th or subsequent mission, you either archive the mission that you've just completed, or archive one of your previously completed missions and replace it with the new one. Some game effects require you to count how many missions you have completed, and an archived mission still counts for this. Finally, step 5 is advancing an assistant and/or activating the building where your boat finished its movement. If the building is a communal building, do not place an assistant there, just activate the building. However, if it is a non-communal building, you must advance an assistant if able. If you do not currently have an assistant on the building, place one on the starting quadrant. If there was another assistant on quadrant 1 of the building, advance that to the next quadrant and push each subsequent one forward, but no further than the last quadrant. If you already have an assistant on the building, do not place a new one. Instead, move your assistant to the next quadrant, displacing others if needed. If your assistant is already on the last quadrant, do not advance it anymore. There are 12 buildings on the board and each player only has 10 assistants. Therefore, you will not be able to place an assistant in every building. The first player to place all of their assistants on the board scores 8 points as depicted here. I've mentioned activating buildings a number of times so far in the video, so it's finally time to explain what that means, starting with the communal buildings. The effects of these buildings is summarised on the back page of the rulebook. At St. Mark's Square, you gain 2 coins, and then, if you pay your taxes, you may also draw a mission card. Taxes are 1 coin for each mission card you currently have in hand and previously completed. Whenever you draw a mission card, you actually draw 2. Choose one and put the other to the bottom of the deck. and you can only have at most 3 mission cards in hand. The Doge's Palace is similar, except you gain 1 scroll and 1 point instead of gaining the 2 coins. At the Major Council, you advance your tracker on the council track once, and then once more for each player with less intrigue than you. At the end of the game, players will gain points based on the position of their trackers on the council track. Also at the Major Council, you may spend 4 coins to build a bridge. I'll mention how you build bridges later in the video. For the non-communal buildings, before explaining activating them, I just wanted to remind you of when they are activated. If you move your boat past a building where you have an assistant, then as long as your other boat isn't already docked there, you can activate the building. And in step 5 of your turn, after you have moved your boat and either placed a new assistant on the building, or if you already have an assistant there, advanced it, then you can activate the building. When you activate a building tile, you may perform any of the effects on it, both in the quadrant where your assistant is and every quadrant before them. Each quadrant's effects are optional, but within a quadrant, you either carry them all out or none of them. Here, for example, you choose to gain this effect, which is gain 1 intrigue and 4 coins. You cannot just gain the 4 coins. The effects of the first quadrant on each building tile is to gain a resource cube, either ceramics, cloth or silver. When you gain a cube, place it on the boat at the building. Each boat can only hold 5 cubes, but you can discard cubes from your boat at any time if you need to. I won't cover all of the effects of the buildings here, they are summarised on the back page of the rulebook, but earlier on I mentioned playing influence cards. Well, it's the effects of some of these buildings that get you those cards. And also at this point, I just wanted to mention one side effect of gaining too much intrigue. If you notice on your player board, the intrigue track has a maximum value. If you are at this value and you ever gain more intrigue, you actually lose 2 points instead. During moving your boat, you may pass through a space containing other gondolas. This is considered a meeting. If you meet your own boat, you may freely swap cubes between the 2 boats. If you meet another player's boat, both you and the other player must either pay 1 scroll or gain 1 intrigue. And if there are multiple boats on a space that you move through, you must meet with each of these boats individually before moving on. Note that ending your turn on the same space as another player's boat is not considered a meeting. Instead, when you end your movement on a space with other players' boats, the players with boats already there gain points as mentioned in the Prologue Rounds, which is 1 point for each boat that arrived after them. And you are not allowed to end your movement on a space with your other boat. I mentioned earlier that you can spend 4 coins to build a bridge when you visit the Major Council, but there are other ways in the game that you can build a bridge too. When you build a bridge, place it on a canal between 2 spaces, directly over a cost icon. Each cost icon can only have 1 bridge built over it. Each player is limited to 2 bridges, and you can build a bridge anywhere no matter where your boats are. Once a bridge has been built, the cost icon below it is ignored for all players, not just the owner of the bridge. If your first movement of your turn is under a bridge, this still counts as your first movement. Therefore, you do not get the benefit of the first movement token for your second move. Whenever you pass under one of your own bridges, you gain 1 coin. Whenever you pass under another player's bridge, you gain 1 intrigue. The end of the game is triggered when the last mission card in the deck is drawn, or when a tracker on the Major Council reaches the endgame marker. When this happens, move the endgame marker from the council track to here. Finish the current round, and then play 2 additional rounds, moving the marker to track this. At the end of the game, each player gains additional points from final scoring. First, score the Major Council. Players earn points based on their position on the Major Council track, according to the information shown at the bottom of the track, which is based on the number of players in the game. In case of a tie, the tied players score the average of their positions rounded down. For example, if 2 players tie for the highest in a 3-player game, then both players score 9 points and the third player scores 2 points. Note that in order to score points from the Major Council, you must have advanced your tracker at least 1 space on the Major Council track. If you are still on space 0, you cannot score points here. Next, each player scores points based on how many assistants they played during the game, which you can easily calculate by counting how many you have left to place. If you have placed 9 or 10 assistants during the game, in other words, you have none or 1 left, you score points equal to the position of your tracker on the major council track. If you placed 7 or 8 assistants during the game, i.e. you have 2 or 3 left, you score points equal to the position of your marker on the major council track divided by 2 and rounded up. Then each player may spend scrolls and coins to reduce their intrigue level. It costs 2 scrolls or 4 coins to remove 1 intrigue. The order in which players reduce their intrigue can be important. After all players have reduced their intrigue as much as possible, the player with the most intrigue is arrested and eliminated from the game. If 2 or more players tie for the most intrigue, the tied player who is later in turn order is arrested. So, for example, if at the end of the game, purple and orange have 2 intrigue each and blue has none, and purple was the start player, it would be orange who is arrested. So purple can wait to reduce their intrigue until orange does so first. Orange pays 2 scrolls to reduce their intrigue by 1, so now it is purple who is being arrested with the most intrigue. Purple then chooses to reduce their intrigue, so now it's orange who is being arrested, and so on. Also note that scrolls are not worth any points at the end of the game, so if you have them, you may as well use all of them to reduce your intrigue as much as possible. Next, each player converts their coins into points. 4 coins for 1 point. And the player with the most points wins. For your first game, it is recommended to give each player a favour card. This card can be used once during the game to either gain 5 coins or 2 scrolls. And when you use the card, flip it over. If it is unflipped at the end of the game, you gain 4 points. If you are playing the game with a mix of new players and experienced players, it is possible to give only the new players the favour card. There are some extra rules to use when playing with 2 players. During setup, give each player one of the smuggler decks which they shuffle and place face down in front of them. Also, take the boats of a third colour. Place an A token in one of them and a B token in the other. Keep the 10 assistants of the third colour nearby. These are the smuggler's assistants. After each of your turns, excluding the prologue, draw the top 2 cards from your smuggler deck, choose one of them to play, and return the other to the top of your deck. Then, move the smuggler boat with the corresponding token to the location shown on the card. Ignore the icons at the bottom of the card, that is for the solo game. Smugglers move along the route that is the cheapest in coins. Going under bridges is free, but the first move for a smuggler is not. And if there are multiple paths of equal cost, you choose. And smugglers never have or spend any coins, so the purpose of determining the cheapest route is purely just to determine what route the boat takes. If a smuggler meets either player's boat, it still counts as a meeting, but only the player whose boat was met must spend 1 scroll or gain 1 intrigue. And also, if during your turn your boat meets a smuggler, then that's a meeting too, and you must spend 1 scroll or gain 1 intrigue. If the smuggler boat ends its movement on either player's boat, points are gained as normal. If it finishes movement on the other smuggler boat, the active player's opponent gains the points. After finishing the movement, the smuggler advances a smuggler assistant as normal, placing one if there isn't one already there, or advancing an existing one, which as usual displaces other assistants. Smugglers never activate locations, nor do they gain resources, points, intrigue or scrolls. When there is only 1 card remaining in a smuggler deck, that is the card that must be played that turn. Afterwards, shuffle it together with the cards in the discard pile to form a new deck, and continue playing. Any abilities that refer to meeting other players' boats work against smuggler boats as well, but the player moving the smuggler boat is never forced to pay any scrolls or gain intrigue. I hope you found this video useful in learning how to play Venice. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment if you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions about the game, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you to Braincrack Games for helping to sponsor this video, and if you like the videos that I create, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Until next time, take care, and thanks for watching. Gaming Rules is proudly sponsored by Game Toppers, upgrading your gaming experience. Visit GameToppersLLC.com.